Andries Rousseau, who's an assurance partner at PwC, to unpack it a lot further for us. And no doubt construction is a key element to economic growth in the country, but it does seem as though confidence is rather low. Productivity is low. Is there a turnaround here? One often wishes that we could go back to the 2009-2010 fever that we had.
Yeah. We are certainly optimistic that we've reached a turning point. This year was the first year that the top 10 construction companies in aggregate showed an increase in profit since 2009. And if you look at margin growth for the first time in 5 years, reality is that margins are still extremely low, sitting at 2%. So there's still a long way to go before confidence will really return to the industry.
Well, we understand that construction is a cyclical industry. Things never go up and things never go down at the same time. But looking at the long-term overview, it seems as though there's a lot of projects in the pipeline, in particular from the public sector. Are we finding a positive uptick to this?
Certainly are. If we look at the secure order book growth, there was only 1% for this year, but it was certainly supported by real underlying growth, mainly public sector driven. That growth seems low because the mining industry has brought it down a little bit. But in the long run, we are quite positive that the public sector expenditure growth and forecasted growth will continue and that companies will benefit from that.
Is it enough though, Andries?
We believe it is. We believe those companies that's aligned properly with the right skills base, the right resources to fit into the energy drive that government has, transportation, logistic drive, that those construction companies will reap the benefits.
On the African perspective, we know that there are several projects unfolding on the continent, countries building dams, lots of developments regarding road and railway infrastructure. Why aren't we getting a piece of that pie?
No, we certainly are getting a piece of that pie. And a number of our South African construction companies are operating in Africa and are actually doing extremely well. All the others that's not operating, they are trying to get there and also get their share of increased margins. Reality is when you operate in Africa, it does come with a slightly higher risk, and you need to be sure that you understand the risk when you tender and that you price that risk appropriately.
And potential partnerships with Chinese developers? I
think there's no doubt that the mega projects require partnerships to be had, and that we'll see that trend continuing.
On that, part of the report that you also make note of is SARS, as well as tax implications that construction companies need to be aware of. SARS has expressed its intention to conduct extensive compliance checks and integrated audits in the industry. This, I take it, was on the back of the collusion penalty that the construction companies received.
Yeah, no, this is completely separate. SARS last year already indicated that they will be placing focus on a number of industries, and construction was highlighted as one where they believe compliance can be better.
Why construction in particular? Clearly it must mean that they saw some red flags there.
Yeah, they've shown a number of statistics around non-compliance, timing and audit outcomes when they go out in to look at it.
So overall, SARS conducting an investigation like this should be a benefit?
It will be a benefit. The IT 14ST reconciliation that SARS has been required from all these companies, where they effectively reconcile all sorts of financial information. It's a good thing for the industry. It will take time and investment from companies, though, to have systems aligned with that and to support or provide proper support on a real-time basis.
Andries, when you look at our tendering processes, are we doing them correctly, or could we potentially learn lessons from countries overseas as to how to minimize the need for corruption there?
Yeah, there are different debates around how to run tender processes. As far as we're concerned, transparency and openness around any award of tenders is paramount, and that reduces the risk for the tender concerns that has been in the press.
In your opinion, is there enough of that in the South African sphere?
I think there's a big focus from construction companies to clean house, and all of the companies have committed to abide to ethical standards when conducting construction work.
Looking at labour as well, that's another area that you highlight here. No doubt that's been a challenge not only in the mining sphere but also in the construction sphere across the board. Are we addressing these issues correctly?
Yeah, we believe that skills shortage is certainly one of the bigger concerns for the construction industry. If you look at the pay increases in the construction industry, it's actually been well above most of the other industries. The reality is that construction companies needed to retain skills in the down cycle in anticipation of an upcycle that's coming. The construction industry employs well above 420,000 employees, which is a significant contributor to the country's labour force.
You mentioned the upscale. Is that what you mentioned?
Well, so certainly the upside of the cycle, which is about to happen, we all hope.
Things are taking a turn, so your outlook is very positive.
Absolutely.
What could we expect maybe from the construction sector in the next 5-10 years perhaps?
Well, we expect real growth in terms of projects on the back of government expenditure, not only locally but also in Africa. And we certainly hope improved margins, because the current low margins are not sustainable in the long run.
You also highlight improving value for stakeholders. No doubt shareholders know how to identify their value, but stakeholders, those who contribute to the chain, are we doing it correctly, perhaps by contributing fairly in the construction sector? Yeah,
the reality is, if you look at the value contributed in the construction industry, and there we say revenue less direct cost, then employees take about 80% of that pie, which is a significant number, and shareholders are really at the back of the queue. If you try to allocate indirect tax to government, so in other words, you take the pay-as-you-earn tax out of the employee's basket and you add VAT, then that number from a government point of view goes up to 15%, previously 5%, and employees sitting at below 70%. But still a substantial portion. I think shareholders would certainly want better returns. In order to get that, margins has to improve.